Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. I'm Alex, and this is the Lost Souls podcast. If you've actually somehow watched one of these before at some point in the past, you might be surprised because I would say it's going to take a rather different tone in the future and moving forward. See, this is the whole idea of this is to create a place for people who feel lost to hopefully find some direction and purpose. And I created it to help me. I didn't do this for everybody else. I'm looking for direction. I was looking for direction, and so I thought if I somehow, a lot of people like to think, if I do this other thing for people that I need, I'll find that, right? I'll find that thing I'm looking for, and that's just not how it works. Uh, that's the whole idea of like the wounded healer, right? They give others what they can't give themselves in an attempt to heal themselves, when that's a rather roundabout way of doing it that doesn't really work. But regardless, today I want to talk about faith, or rather, finding faith. And, I'll have some small testimonies from me about what faith means to me and how I discovered it. But, just to start, I gotta say that, I look around in society today and I see a lot of people who lack it. See a lot of people who lack faith, a lot of people who don't have trust in something more than what's physically available to us in front of us. And, whether that's a failing of society or just merely a byproduct of the world we live in, I'm unsure. Those two, I might have said the same thing twice. I'm not entirely sure, right? I, you know, we do live in a world that's overpopulated with like greed and money. It's ruled by money. Like you can't even look over your shoulder without capitalism screaming at you, "Hey, go make some go make some dough," right? Every time you turn on the TV or I guess specifically look on the internet, get on YouTube, everybody's always talking about this grind. Like you need to be grinding out all that money, you need to be grinding all that workout, like, right? And because we've created a culture where, in America specifically, we created a culture where it's like the whole purpose of your existence is to work a job and make money, and like we've completely ruined what work was even supposed to be. Because what work actually is, because it's not work. Going to work isn't about just going to making money. It's about doing the thing you were put on this earth to do. Going to work is about contributing and creating this. It doesn't have to be a thing. It can be a service, whatever it is you're creating, right? Positive interactions in the world, whatever it is, right? Work is about fulfilling your life's purpose, and people have like become disconnected from that because we're so hung up on everything else. And people like, if to really get people in work and to people to not despise it as they do, because you know how it works. If you ever been into a job before, you know how it works. Work is this thing, the boogeyman. Everybody hates, right? Nobody likes going to work. Nobody likes doing this. Nobody likes doing that. I don't like, A, I don't like being told what to do. B, I don't like my hours having to be so concrete and structured. C, I don't like being on call whenever I want. And most of these people have valid concerns with that, but it's because the reason we're working isn't, to borrow a term from the Greek philosophers, for the good, right? Because nobody goes to work at McDonald's and like, I'm doing good work here, right? I'm doing good in the world. I'm making a positive impact. No, you're slinging chicken sandwiches to people who really can't pay $3 for a better burger, right? And that's how people feel about it. And I'm not saying that's not what you're doing, because like, in part, the whole corporatization of America in the first part is half the issue, because it's reduced like work to just labor, right? That's another issue. It's like, yeah, there's labor, but you've reduced work to where it's just like, oh, you're laboring away day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, and it becomes this numbing repetitive process that is just something you go and do, and something you go and do, and something you go and do, and I need the money, I need this job, I got a house payment, I got a car payment, I have these bills I gotta pay, I have all these responsibilities and stuff I have to do, so I'll suck it up and I'll go to work and I'll just deal with the inevitable, like the reality of labor in this world. And that's part of what breaks people's spirit, because like your work is your purpose, right? And when you don't enjoy your work, when you don't live for your work, you don't have the purpose. Like you can't be fulfilled by everything else, right? You got to be fulfilled by everything. Life isn't this thing where we accept 75% of what we're, or 67% of what we do is our lives, and the other 33% is just like the time we put in. Like we compare work to literally serving time, because everybody is like, this sucks. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. This is the worst thing I've ever done. How did we get here as a society? And like on some levels, it's like things have been a lot worse. Like really, things have been a lot worse before. Like you turn back the clock a couple hundred years, and you got turn back the clock like literally 100 years, maybe a little over 100 years, and you got 7-year-olds going to work in factories and losing their hands in the sweatshops, and that's also horrible. But like we've been given enough space in modern day society to where we can even question these things, and I think that's something that people don't take a step back to actually be thankful for enough. Is that, well, yeah, we have all these, I don't want to say misconceptions, but we have all these opinions and attitudes and negative connotations placed to like working or whatever, and we have the space to make that, and like that's not always been true. Like people have not always had the space to even look at work that way. Do you think a peasant in the 16 ages ever was able to have a chance to step back and say, man, like this is awful. Like I don't want to be working the fields for a penny a day so that I can not die, right? Like no, they didn't have that option, didn't have that space or that ability to even come through and like analyze and think about and sit with all this stuff to come to any sort of realizations. This is a rather recent thing in our society, and people like don't realize this, right? Because before, and I'm not talking like, and there was never any scholars or anybody thinking about this. No, there were, but they were the rich. We always had scholars and educated or thinkers or whatever, and I mean records of that back to at least at least the time of the Greeks, at least, and it's just this was a very uncommon thing. But now in today's society, the roles have been flipped where it's almost a common thing for people to be, because you got the internet at your fingertips. You got all the information you could ever want or need just a couple clicks of a mouse away or a couple swipes of your thumbs. And that's another thing, that like we have the access to all the information we'd ever need, ever. That's what the internet has done, right? And like again, people, especially people who've grown up in that era, they take that for granted because we've always had it, or for most of our lives we've always had it. We've never had to pull out an encyclopedia or just trust what Aunt Margaret said about the anything. I don't know, the trust what Aunt Margaret said about the length of time you cook spaghetti noodles. I mean, how many people, young people nowadays, would be able to cook if they couldn't just look up recipes online? Because I know that every single time that I'm like, I'm hungry, I want to make like a nice dish, do you think I just like go to my mom and be like, Mom, how do you make this? First off, I don't, because my mom burns everything. I mean, just to be the truth, like there's a reason that we had fast food when I was a kid, But it's just like we just look it up, when we have the internet to guide us through whatever it is we want to do, cooking, house repairs, car repairs. People who, even like car guys nowadays, back in the day, if you wanted to learn how to work on your car, you'd ask your dad and hope he knew. Or you had to get out there and just fiddle with it for hours and hours and hours until you figured it out yourself. Now you can just look up a guide on a tutorial online, and they can tell you exactly how to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and this is how you do it. Now, is it going to be that simple when you go and do it? Probably not. But like you've got a really good framework that you can move forward with, where most of the stuff's already figured out. You don't really have to think or do or figure it out. It's all right in front of you, and it makes it a lot easier than people like to think or realize. If there has ever been a time in history where people can be whatever they want to be, it's now, and it's because of the internet. Like that's the unspoken. Like internet has tons of downsides, right? Social media has caused like a non-recoverable negative effect on the mental health, minds, and souls, honestly, of an entire generation, and it's worked its way back up through every other generation, right? Like, that's just the reality we're faced in, because the internet was never, the internet's just a thing. It wasn't positive or negative, and it has all these negative qualities, but it also has a ton of positive ones too. We can research whatever we want. If you really wanted to learn about whatever subject you wanted to learn, you don't have to go to college to do that. Now, you don't have a degree to back it up. Yeah, I could go on right now and I could learn the rest of the stuff I need to finish an engineering degree, but that doesn't mean that I'd have an official degree that says I'm certified to do all this stuff, right? And but like, all the information's there. If you want to look for it, all the information's there. And I guess the point trying to make my way back to is, like, people don't have purpose. People don't move forward. They just have their work and that's it. And then it's like, it's not even, they don't even like it. It's not even their purpose. It's not even what they want to do, but like, they got to do it anyway. And I guess one of the questions I ask is why. And of course, my answer is going to be something relating to faith, because that's what this whole thing's about, right? But like, faith also comes with a distinct sense of purpose in people's lives, right? Because if you don't have faith, then what are you living for, right? If you don't have faith, then if you don't have faith, as in, i.e., you are either agnostic, atheist, or something along those lines, because faith and religion are very, very closely tied to each other. Like, yes, you can be spiritual, but like, it's a lot harder to be like a spiritual person without any distinct faith than it is to be a part of a faith, just as a whole, just as like on its face. You can do it. And I'm not saying if you want to be like the spiritual guru that you want to be, and don't let me discourage you because I said this. Like, please, like, go for it if that's like how you feel called or how you feel your connection, and that's like a faith that you have. Because I don't want to, because it's very I feel it's very important to have people have faith and purpose. But people just keep on going, and the agnostics and the atheists of the world tend to just, like, their worldview tends to be that, hey, we're monkeys who got too smart, and we're flying around on a rock in space and fighting wars with each other, and we created money, and now we gotta work for money, and now this is so oppressive, and now, like, we're battling, now we're ruining society. Now we're ruining the planet. Now we're headed to damnation. We're headed to doom. And now I'm so depressed because there's nothing I can do about it. And it just looks like the world's going to hell in a handbasket. And everything's falling apart. And there's nothing here. And there's nothing around me. And I just don't know what to do anymore. And see, that's also part of the issue, isn't it? Because what do people with faith have that these people don't have? Because I've heard so many people who lack faith just talk about how they have they just don't have any faith in the world itself, even, right? They see, like, our corrupt politicians in office, and they go, we're ruined, we're screwed. They look around and they see, like, all these TikTok kids, or they see all these, this new generation growing up who always, have had an iPad, and the iPad kids who have a short attention span, and are like, society's about to get completely ruined and decimated. Like, everything is so bad, right? And of course, this is a bit of a straw man. This isn't an argument necessarily. I'm not trying to make an argumentative point. I'm just trying to give examples, though. But like, these are the attitudes a lot of these people have, and number one, it's not helpful. Number two, it robs you of any purpose you'll ever find. Looking at the world like that, you're like, well, nothing matters. That ends up being the go-to. And like, I'm not here to judge, because I'm not gonna lie, I've been there myself plenty of times, to where it's just like, nothing ever matters. There's nothing important in this world, and I just want to go crawl in a hole and die, or something like that. There's no point, there's no reason for any of this, right? But the issue with a lot of these people is, this is anybody that truly has faith, anybody that truly holds faith in their heart and their soul and their mind and their body, they know that's not true. I don't realize, I didn't say think. I didn't say they think that that's not true. That there is purpose. They know. Because to have faith is also to have a sense of knowing in something greater. It's not a sense of thinking in something greater. I think that's where a lot of atheists and agnostics get like held up. I know it's where I did, because that was my whole thing. Is all these people, I'm using myself, my past self on the cutting board here, because I used to be like, all these people just, they're fools. They're fools in their thoughts, and they lack proper reason, and they think that there's something greater out there. They think that somebody's looking out for them out there. They think that, the universe has got their back, that God has got their back, and they don't know. They don't even look around. Have they seen famine? Have they seen suffering in the world? Yeah, that's what I thought. They don't even know. That's kind of the whole point, isn't it? They do know. That's what makes it faith, right? If you don't know, if it's a think, if it's a thought you have, if it's a thing that you're toying around with, it's not faith. It's not, like, you might be finding your way to faith like that, and so if that's where you're at on your journey, then go ahead and move forward through it and see where it takes you. But faith is way stronger than that, because true faith is unbreakable. Once you have true faith, it doesn't go anywhere. It's not like you lose it, right? Because beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's something out there, there's some greater purpose to everything happening, and there's some greater purpose to what's happening in your life and the lives of everybody around you. And it's able to give you a peace that no other thing, no other concept in the world can give you, because like what else can offer you peace? What else other than faith can offer you peace? Can higher education, can a degree offer you, can a job offer you peace? No, of course not. It's only going to put more stress on you. It's going to give you the opposite of peace, right? Can family bring you peace? Well, to some extent, but everybody who's ever had a family, and I'm saying that because I do realize there are people out there who haven't been so fortunate as to get to have families, and that's something else that anybody who's had one needs to be thankful for, because there are people out here who've never had that, and that's something we need to realize. But is it always sunshine and rainbows when you're with your family? No, half the time when you're around your family, argument, especially family dinner, Thanksgiving dinner, the dreaded political talk where everybody's starting to argue with each other. It's not an easy event. It's stressful. That's not peace, right? Right? You're on edge half the time, or you're anxious, or you're worried, and you shouldn't be, but that's the reality, right? And certainly not by having a kid. There are some people who think having a kid will fix their lives, but no, you're adding a whole bunch of turmoil into your life that you're not willing to accept for what it is, right? But faith can give you all of that, right? I've personally, I've come to accept Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, right? And of course, as a Christian, I believe that is the correct path, and I want to be able to spread that with people and say, accept Jesus Christ into your heart, right? But if that's not your claim to faith, of course that's what I want for you, but if that's not your claim to faith, I'd rather people find another faith than have none at all, right? So I'd ideally, I'd want you to follow Christ. I'd want people to accept Christ and find Christ. But if that's not on the table for you, if that's not going to work for you, you need something else, man. You need something else. You can't just go through the life without meaning. It's just so miserable. And I'm not saying that as from an outsider's perspective. I'm saying that as the guy who was there. I'm saying that as the guy who felt like there was nothing. I sit here before you today, and I say without a shadow of doubt in my mind, I would be dead 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 times over, if not for the grace of God. That's my life, right? I've been down. I've been so down, and I've tried to do some really stupid things before, and it's thank God that it didn't happen. Thank God that there is somebody, looking out for me to keep me from, ending it all before it ever got started. And, I have to be thankful for that every day. And the funny part is, and here's the thing too, is it's like it's not even easy. I'm not saying finding faith is easy. In fact, it's probably one of the hardest things you'll ever have to do. But it's one of the most rewarding. Because, and it's not like this like light switch. Like, yeah, there's this point where there's a light switch that got flipped, and now you're like in grace, or you're seeing the world in a new light. And yeah, that's great, but it's not a process that ends there, right? That's just the door opening to the rest of the hall, right? And you still got to walk through the rest of the hall, and look, you got two broken legs, so you got to crawl through this miles and miles stretch of hall. It's still a drudge, it's still a journey, but you know, sometimes you just need to get through the door. And the thing about God, the thing about Jesus Christ, is that so many people want to say, well, there's nothing. I see nothing, I think nothing, I feel nothing, and so I'm not going to go out there, and I'm not going to pursue anything. I'm not going to try to find faith. I would ask these people, have you ever tried asking? I mean, seriously, I know it's not the easiest thing to say, but if you truly cannot believe, you truly cannot hold faith, have you tried getting on your knees and asking for a sign? And being open to what comes to you? Have you? Or do you just say that there's nothing and I'm not going to try, it's a waste of time? Right? Because what do you have to lose? Especially when you're down, desperate, and alone. Especially when you're down and out and you feel like the world's stacked against you, and you feel like there's nothing you can do and no way you can move forward. What do you have to lose? What exactly do you have to lose? Because I know the answer to that question. There's nothing you have to lose. All right, so let's take what the people who don't want to do this say at face value. They're like, there's no point, there's nothing out there, and so I'm not even going to try. Okay, so you lose nothing by trying, right? Like, yeah, you look like a fool, but you could do it in the solitude of your own room with nobody watching, and the only person who has to know that you did that foolish act, if that's how you want to call it, was you. You don't tell anybody. So what's the harm in giving it a try? It's not, and it doesn't even have to be this long, drawn out process. If you really need a sign of faith, then ask for a sign of faith. And you know what? If you truly are asking for it, I know that God will deliver, because that's what He did for me. Right? Because I'm not coming here saying like, oh, because that's the thing you got to realize about like people of true faith is they don't. It's not that they're just like, yeah, there are some people who are just brought up in it, and so they say, well, I was brought up in it, so I'm going to just hold faith, blah, 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 blah. God will meet you halfway if that's what you need, right? Just be open to it. You have to be open to it. You have to, and don't try to resist it like I did for so many years. Don't try to resist it like me. Don't try to fight back. That's what people mean when they say surrender. Right? Because at some point you do have to surrender. You can't just fight and fight and fight and fight and fight your entire life. I thought I could. I thought I could solve any problem with enough aggression and hostility. I mean, being honest, and you can't. Sometimes the only way forward is the exact opposite, right? Life, sure, you can think of an endless series of battles, that you got to get through, but some battles are just insurmountable and you can't win, right? There's a reason that, in wars, people don't just, well, let's march the armies forward and never let them stop, right? They don't just battle and battle and battle and battle and battle until, they either lose, run out of troops, whatever. No, they got to be strategic about it, because not every battle can be won and fought. That's what they mean when they say pick your battles. And so if you're trying to fight a battle against faith, a battle against God, you're gonna lose. You can't win. How could you, right? So you need to surrender to that and just let Jesus Christ into your life, let God into your life, and let God and Jesus Christ show you the way forward, because what else do you have to lose? I see so many people nowadays, and so there's a certain group of men on the internet who, I would have said at one point, even if I wasn't an active member of that community, that I belong to. And now, does that mean, I say I'm not part of that community anymore? Does that mean that every single thing that every single one of these men have said, as if I'm being completely honest, most people on the internet want to believe, is everything they say completely and 100% just false, 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 and you shouldn't listen to a word they say? No. There's truth in everybody if you're willing to listen, but these are people that people have discredited so far down the rabbit hole that like even a word that comes out of their mouth must be ignored and said and essentially treated as societal blasphemy. When the only thing the rest of society is doing with that is they're ignoring and choosing not to listen to the problems of the people who need somebody to help them the most. Because like, do you think that those men, that they're actually like just the most abhorrent people you've ever met? Do you think that like they got to the position they're in right now just because of some dumb stuff? Like, you want to say like the internet, the spicy sites on the internet, but like you say, oh, you shouldn't, and like I was there. Like I cannot judge people. That's one of the things that I'm choosing to give up, and that I've had to give up. That I should have been involved with in the first place, but that I've had to give up. And it was that was the first thing that I gave up in this recent journey I'm undertaking. But, do you really want to sit there and blame that like it's the source of every one of the problems these young men have? Like, really? Why do they even seek that out in the first place? Have you ever asked that question? Why do they seek it out in the first place? Is it? Do you think that people who are in stable, loving, and nurturing environments with people surrounded by people who love them, do you think they seek it out like you're claiming these people seek it out? These young men seek it out? No. And okay, well, let's say you're willing to agree with me there. Like, hey, like there are reasons that men seek it out. Like that's the only step I want you to take. There are reasons beyond just pure base instinct desire that men seek this out, because I'd say a lot of them are just looking for a connection. And when there are people in this world, because we are social creatures as humans, we're meant to be around other people. When these young men aren't getting that kind of social attention, that social connectedness that they're looking for, right? Whose fault is that? Because we're so easy, because when there's one black sheep, you blame the black sheep for being left out of the herd, right? When the black sheep can't help that it's black, and the black sheep can't make itself white to fit in, right? With all the other sheep. And when the herd kicks out the black sheep, that black sheep can't just come back. That black sheep is alone now. And so what's happened out of that is because of the internet, all the black sheep found each other. Now, is that a good or a bad thing? Well, here's what happens when you have a lot of people who, even according to society, are misguided. Like the rest of the herd the herds think they are misguided. To use a metaphor. And you're basically just sticking them all and lumping them together. Well, that's called an echo chamber. And when people are in an echo chamber, it doesn't challenge their beliefs. What it does is it emboldens the things they already believe. And so here's what's happening on behalf of the rest of society. You're kicking out the black sheep. They're finding each other. And of course they're going to find community and connectedness in the only place they can find it. And to the rest of society, it doesn't matter, because you just don't want to deal with them. You don't want to have them around. You don't want to even listen to them. You don't want to accept them or accept them in. But what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to blast them, admonish them, and throw them out like yesterday's trash. You almost want to forget about them because the world's so big. We don't have all this time to think about other people. How many young men does it take, right? Because do you think that these men are happy? These men are living fulfilled lives? No, but every time they turn around, they're just being talked down on. Every time they open their phone to look at social media, you know what happens? They see a whole bunch of stuff about people online just talking them down, putting them down again and again. Do you know what the young men in this country need? They need somebody to lift them up. They need whole communities to lift them up because they can't do it alone. Here's the thing that these men don't realize is they can't do it alone. But you've cast them out and they said, you know what? I don't need anybody. You know, I don't need all of you because you all don't want me. And so I'll just do it all on my own. And enough people said, I'll do it all on my own, that they banded together. And that's what you've got now. And you say this is the reason for the problems of the world, when no, they're a symptom of the same problems we've been dealing with since the beginning of time. Near the beginning of time. Right? But don't come around like here's my point on that is don't go around acting like they're the bane of the world, like they're all that's wrong and that they need to change when you're not doing anything to give them the opportunity to change that they need, because you think that somehow, some way, by just throwing them out into the wolves' den, that they'll come out better. And yeah, maybe some will. Maybe some will. But how many acceptable losses are along the way of that journey, about that path? How many people are you willing to lose just to save a few? Right? Because here's the thing that I see is I don't want to just save a few of these young men. I don't want to save just a few of them from a life of misery and pain. And I can't save them from lives of that. That's also, to some extent, suffering is just life, right? But I don't want to call acceptable losses. I don't want acceptable casualties of war. Because these are lives we're talking about. These are people we're talking about. And it could have been me, or it could have been you, or it could have been anybody, right? And how would you feel if you were just a statistic acceptable as a loss, written off as somebody who's okay to just like, oh, we don't need to really worry about them, right? How would you feel if it was just told to you that, hey, well, we got all these other things going on with all these other people, and they seem to be doing all right, so we're not really worried about you because, like, it's okay if you don't make it. It's okay if you don't make it through. It's okay if you don't pull through. We'll deal with it when it happens. Excuse me? No wonder these men are so angry and upset, because it's how they get treated. And nobody wants to take a step back and realize that, and look at it and realize that it's not just it's a societal problem to fix. It's a large enough percentage of men nowadays to where it's a societal problem to fix now. And you're not gonna fix it by banning pornography. I'm sorry, you're not gonna fix it that way. I think that's some politician's solution to it. Oh, that'll fix everything. No, it's much deeper than that, because you're trying to blame the victims here. Because I don't know how in the world you can see these lonely, desperate young men lashing out at society, because that's what they're doing. They're lashing out at society because they feel left alone, abandoned, and distraught. They feel, violated and completely, isolated and abandoned. And you're blaming them for it. Really, you're blaming them for it. Or these are young men, and you say, well, go to therapy. Well, here's the thing about therapy is it doesn't work for young men. I've been there. It doesn't work for young men. If that was going to be the solution, it would have fixed everything already, right? When you send young men to therapy, you're trying to get them help in the same way that a woman would get help. And here's the thing is you need two completely different approaches to that, right? The young man needs purpose. Maybe the young woman just needs somebody to listen to her and tell her that she's fine and that everything's going to be okay, and that you're valid and you're not, and you're fine. The young man needs a direction. The young man needs somewhere to go and a direction to go in, and a way to step forward, and they need a purpose. And the only way I'm seeing that can happen right now is through faith, right? And so that's why I'm on here right now. And I guess I'll keep making this out, because the only thing I want to do right now is hopefully reach some of these young men and let them know that, hey, like there's something greater out there, right? Don't lose hope, don't lose faith, right? And what I would want is for you to be open to the idea of accepting Christ into your life. I think that would help these young men more than anything. And I don't want you to take that as, oh, you go. I don't, as like your mom or your grandma or the person down the street saying, you need to get in church, you need to find God, because on some level they're well intentioned with that, but that it comes off completely wrong and misses the point. It misses the mark entirely. I want you to find Christ, but I want you to find Christ so that you can have some purpose in your life, so that you can have some meaning. I'm not sitting here to demonize you or put you down or tell you that you're not worth it, because you are. You are absolutely 100% worth it. You're worth the effort, and you are deserving of love. Right? Don't let everybody else convince you otherwise. Don't let yourself convince you otherwise. All right? So to close off here, I just be open. Okay? That's if I had to ask one thing, just be open. And if you need a sign, if you need a proof of some sort, close your door, make sure nobody's watching, and ask for it. Humbly ask for it. Get down on your knees and ask for it. And I promise you, if you come to that with good intentions and you come to that in the best way you can, you will find what you're looking for. Anybody who's made it this far, thanks for listening. I've been Alex, and maybe this will help a lost soul out there. And God bless.